Imagine a silent power, hidden within your mind, capable of transforming every thought into a source of blessings. This power is not a distant secret, nor a vague promise. It is the force of anticipatory gratitude. When you learn to give thanks before receiving, you begin to attract everything your heart desires. Inspired by the wisdom of Joseph Murphy, this text invites you to discover how the mind can become a magnet for abundance, well-being, and success. It is not merely passive waiting, but aligning your thoughts, feelings, and intentions with the universal law that responds to gratitude and faith. Prepare for a transformative journey, where every word is a stimulus, every pause an opportunity to plant within you the seed of prosperity. You will learn to cultivate thoughts that not only attract good, but also connect you with the infinite source of energy and abundance in the universe. This is not just any text. It is a key that opens the door to the life you deserve, to the miracles already on their way, and to the extraordinary power of a mind that gives thanks before receiving. Welcome to Anticipatory Gratitude, the mind that attracts good. Throughout the centuries, men and women have spoken the word providence with a touch of mystery, as if it were a whimsical force that sometimes favors and sometimes abandons. For some, it is synonymous with luck; for others, an arbitrary will that distributes blessings or punishments without apparent reason. This confusion has led millions to live in uncertainty, hoping for the best and fearing the worst, without realizing that providence is neither chance nor whim. It is law. And like every law, it is constant, precise, reliable, and available to anyone who knows how to cooperate with it. From a spiritual and mental perspective, providence is not an external intervention descending from above to change your life as an exception. It is rather the intelligent direction of the universe, an invisible order that always seeks to guide every circumstance toward good. This principle does not depend on your luck, nor on your education, nor on what others think of you. It depends on your ability to recognize it, accept it, and align yourself with it. For even if many do not know it, providence is already at work in everyone. The difference is that some block it with fear, doubt, and anxiety, while others allow it to flow through their subconscious mind. It is useful here to make clear distinctions. Destiny is a fatalistic concept, the belief that everything is written and nothing can be changed. Chance is the naive idea that events happen without cause, like balls bouncing aimlessly. Mental law, on the other hand, is the profound truth that every thought, every image, and every emotion accepted into your subconscious becomes the cause of future effects. And providence is the action of that law, when your subconscious cooperates with infinite intelligence, arranging people, timing, and circumstances to fulfill what has already been planted within you. Your subconscious mind is the channel through which providence works. You do not produce the creative energy, but you can open or close the way to it. When you think with clarity, feel with faith, and affirm with conviction, you are giving an order to the subconscious. And this, in contact with universal wisdom, begins to restructure your life from the inside out. It is not magic. It is not coincidence. It is the law fulfilling its natural course. The purpose of this book is precisely to restore your trust in that divine order. Here you will learn that you are not at the mercy of chance, nor doomed to fatality, nor condemned to live in uncertainty. You are surrounded, sustained, and guided by a providence that never fails. Your task is to understand it, trust it, and allow it to flow. When you do, you will discover that your entire life becomes a succession of miracles in perfect order. The mind that attracts good, based on the teachings of Joseph Murphy. We have noticed that more than 80% of those who visit our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by pressing the subscribe button and giving a like to the video. Thank you for inspiring us to continue creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1. Your subconscious is a channel of providence. Most people speak the word providence without understanding its deeper nature. They refer to it as if it were some hidden design, a kind of external intervention that arbitrarily decides the fate of men, as if some distant entity chose at will who will be rescued and who must resign themselves to their misfortunes. This is a childish conception of the universe. Such a vision not only diminishes the spiritual dignity of the human being, but condemns them to a fearful passivity that prevents any real transformation. He who understands the mental law knows that providence is not a will acting from the outside, but a principle of intelligent direction that operates within every person. Providence is not an accident. It is an ordered current of wisdom that responds to focused thought and sustained faith. It is law, not chance. It is response, not punishment. It is spiritual mathematics in motion, not uncontrollable mysticism. All true providence, the one that manifests good in your life, takes place through the channel of your subconscious mind. No external guidance exists that has not first been accepted as an inner directive. The subconscious is the instrument through which the higher plan is imprinted onto the field of the visible. This is not a vague theory nor an unfounded belief. It is a demonstrable law. Every time you think with faith, feel with clarity, and hold an image of order, you're opening that invisible channel through which infinite intelligence begins to flow into your affairs. This flow is not emotional nor an empty enthusiasm, but a silent, precise, and constant movement. Just as the water of a river follows the bed that has been opened to it, so does the creative power follow the mental form you establish from within your depths. Imagine for a moment an irrigation canal in the middle of the desert. That canal is not the source, but when it is opened, it can bring life to acres of barren land. Such is your subconscious mind. It is not the original cause of good, but when it is instructed with wisdom, it becomes the vehicle of every possible blessing. You do not create the water, but you can dig the channel. You do not create infinite wisdom, but you can direct it toward your needs. The key is not to beg from on high, but to open from within the passage of good. Your subconscious is in constant communication with the principle of order that sustains the universe. This communication does not occur through words or elaborate ideas, but through thought vibrations, mental images charged with faith, feelings repeated and accepted with conviction. You do not need to understand how this process unfolds in technical terms. It is enough to know that the subconscious automatically responds to whatever you accept as true. Here is where many fail. They believe providence is something that must come from outside, not realizing that it is already in motion, awaiting only the proper mental command to manifest in the desired form. It is essential to understand that you cannot command providence with willpower or desperation. You cannot force the flow of law. One does not shout at a river to make it water the land. One prepares its bed, one respects its course, one adjusts its slope. The same applies to your subconscious mind. The channel must be free of obstructions, contradictory thoughts, hidden fears, negative beliefs carried from childhood or culture. Only a cleared inner mind can become a transparent and effective channel of infinite wisdom. That is why it is not enough to pray or affirm with enthusiasm. It is necessary to clear the mental ground, to remove the weeds of doubt and guilt, to let go of resentments and reject old ideas of divine punishment or inherited fatality. Your subconscious does not interpret religious symbols, nor distinguish between sacred and profane ideas. It simply obeys the emotional charge and persistence of the mental image. Thus, a person who repeats pious words but holds within an inner vision of lack or threat is sowing chaos, even if their lips speak of faith. On the other hand, one who remains outwardly silent but steadily cultivates the image of good already fulfilled is channeling providence into their life. Do not ask yourself whether your prayers are heard above. Ask whether they have been accepted below, in the silent sanctuary of your subconscious mind. Providence does not improvise. Every visible manifestation you attribute to luck, chance, or a miracle has in fact been the exact result of a sustained mental vibration. Even when you were unaware of it, your deeper mind was already cooperating with the law. The difference between the ignorant believer and the mental sage is that the former works unknowingly, while the latter works knowingly. You have already attracted many good things into your life without knowing how you did it. Now you will learn to do it consciously, deliberately, with purpose and direction. To begin activating this channel, I recommend a simple yet powerful practice. Each morning, upon waking, calmly and attentively pronounce the following affirmation. Infinite wisdom guides each of my steps. Do not repeat this phrase as a superstitious spell, but as one who lights a lamp. Say it with the intention that every cell of your body, every corner of your mind, every fiber of your being recognizes that you are aligned with a principle of order that cannot fail. By repeating this affirmation daily, you are opening the gate. You are saying to the subconscious, prepare to receive the flow. You are positioning yourself in harmony with that which already flows eternally. Another powerful practice is to visualize a clear and safe path each morning before beginning your activities. This is not about imagining magical scenes or unattainable ideals, but about calmly seeing the day ahead as a path without obstacles. Mentally envision your firm steps, your wise decisions, your harmonious conversations, your beneficial encounters. Feel that the ground you walk upon has already been prepared with wisdom. This visualization is not fantasy, it is programming. You are informing the subconscious that you expect order, not chaos, clarity, not confusion. You are giving instructions to the channel to open in the direction of good. Many ask, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? That very question reveals the seed of error. Whoever waits for external signs in order to believe is putting the cart before the horse. It is not about seeing to believe, but about believing to see. Providence operates by cause, not by reaction. And you, by directing your faith toward good, become that inner cause that produces the external effect. You are not waiting for heaven to decide to help you. You are accepting that you were already helped from the very origin of the universe. And now you are simply aligning your mind to reap the fruits that were already planted by the law. Always remember, you are not the source, but you can open the gate. You do not have to create the energy that sustains the cosmos, but you can decide how it flows into your life. You are not the sun, but you can open the windows. Providence does not manifest by merit, nor by pleading, nor by chance, but by attunement. Attune your subconscious mind to the image of good, and good will respond. It cannot be otherwise, because the law does not know how to fail. Now that you understand the function of your subconscious as a channel of providence, wait no longer. Infinite wisdom is already at your disposal. Begin today to declare its guidance, to visualize its order, to clear away mental obstacles, and you will see how what you once called miracles become the simple, natural effects of a directed mind. It is not magic, it is law. And your mind is the perfect channel through which that law is fulfilled. Chapter 2. Faith is mental direction, not guesswork. Few concepts have been so misunderstood by human thought as that of faith. For most people, faith is an uncertain hope, a longing thrown into the air with closed eyes, in the illusion that some external power might take pity and act in their favor. This conception is childish and confused, rooted in a mistaken idea of God, of man, and of the law that unites both poles. Faith, in its true essence, is not a weak desire nor an emotional superstition. It is a clear, precise, sustained mental direction infused with certainty. It is the firm conviction that what you have visualized in your mind has already been decreed in the invisible order and is on its way to visible fulfillment. Faith does not doubt, it does not waver, it does not consult chance. Faith decides, and in deciding, it imprints upon the subconscious a path that will be obeyed with mathematical exactness. There can be no true faith without direction. A scattered mind, divided between hope and fear, cannot project a thought with enough intensity to produce a definite result. That is why many pray and do not receive, affirm and do not manifest, hope and do not harvest. Not because the law has failed, but because their faith was not faith. It was fluctuating, emotional expectation. Faith is not the feeling that something good might happen. Faith affirms that good is already in motion. It is not a positive assumption, but an inner perception that the result is already secured by the intelligence that orders the universe. And this perception is not obtained through emotional effort, but through the mental habit of aligning daily with the image of fulfilled good. Your subconscious mind needs clear direction. It does not work with ambiguities. It does not respond to confused hope nor to insecure prayer. It responds to firm thought, to a sharp image, to the inner command charged with certainty. When you maintain a specific vision accompanied by a feeling of fulfillment, your subconscious receives that signal as a legitimate order and immediately begins to reorganize your inner and outer world so that vision may be realized. It does not do this by magic or sympathy, but by law. It is its natural function, just as it is the root's natural function to absorb water from the earth. But for this direction to work, there must be precise mental intention, not vague desire or a phrase recited without comprehension. Let me tell you the case of a woman who learned this lesson with pain as her teacher and understanding as her redemption. She was a single mother, a secretary by profession, who for years lived imprisoned by fear. She feared for her health, feared for her job, feared for her son's future. Each night she fell asleep wondering what tragedy awaited her the next day. She read spiritual books, attended lectures, repeated affirmations, but nothing seemed to change her life. One day she came to me in despair saying, "Doctor, I have done everything they teach, and yet I still live in scarcity, in constant worry. What am I missing?" I answered, "You are missing faith, but not the faith of emotions. You are missing the clear direction of your mind. You have sown contradictory images. You say you trust, but you continue to expect the worst. Your subconscious does not know which order to obey." I gave her a precise practice. I asked her that each night before sleep she affirm with full attention, "God in me directs everything in my favor." I asked her to do it not as a religious act, but as a mental command, to repeat it with the conviction that she was instructing her deep mind and that every word was a direct order to the law. In addition, I asked her to create what I called her providential map. On a large sheet she was to draw, as clearly as possible, the different aspects of her life in their ideal state. Her finances resolved, her health perfect, her child in an environment of well-being, her job stable and appreciated. Every image had to have its place. Every phrase had to begin with, "I already have. I already enjoy. I already give thanks for." She was to look at that map every night and every morning without anxiety, as one consults the blueprint of a house already designed and under construction. 3 weeks later, her tone was different. There was serenity in her voice. Her company offered her an unexpected promotion. A distant aunt with whom she had not spoken in years sent her an unexpected sum of money. Her son was accepted into a scholarship program at school. These were not whimsical miracles. They were ordered responses to a thought finally unified. By ceasing to fear and beginning to direct her mind with clear faith, she had turned her life into fertile ground where providence could operate without obstacles. The external world had not changed first. Her inner vibration had. And the law, which never rests, simply obeyed. It is vital that you understand this. You do not need God to hear you from heaven. You need your subconscious to receive clearly the image of good. Do not expect external intervention. Produce inner conviction. Your faith is not to convince God to help you, but to convince yourself that you have already been helped from the beginning. When your mind accepts an idea with total certainty, the subconscious has no choice but to obey. Not because you deserve it, nor because you are special, but because that is how the law works. Just as electricity does not evaluate the character of the one who flips the switch, the deep mind does not evaluate your morality, your history, or your mistakes. It evaluates your vibration, your direction, the coherence between your image, your emotion, and your word. The technique of the providential map is not a childish fantasy. It is a powerful mental tool. By placing on a sheet, in visible form, all the elements you wish to see manifested, you are fixing your attention, reducing dispersion, clarifying your desire. The map forces you to define with precision what before was only an emotional fog. Do not look at it as an amulet, but as a focusing tool. Review your map each morning to imprint it on your mind. Observe it each night to reinforce it before sleep. Remember that the subconscious is especially receptive in the moments before sleeping. What you give it at that moment, it processes for hours without your conscious intervention. That is why you must repeat each night the affirmation, "God in me directs everything in my favor." Do not say it as one waiting for a miracle. Say it as one aligned with the flow of good, who only needs to stay the course. Many keep waiting for signs, surprises, open doors without knowing how. But the true sign is you when you align yourself with the law. The true surprise is discovering that nothing was chance, that everything was in gestation from the moment your mind accepted a defined direction. The true opening of paths does not come from outside. It comes when you clear the field of your mind from doubts, resentments, inherited fears, and sow consistently the image of good. Then and only then providence can operate in you without interference. That is why I tell you, with the authority of experience, faith is mental direction, not guesswork. Do not wait for things to turn out well. Declare that they are already well, because you see them that way in your mind and feel them that way in your heart. Do not ask if it will work. Decide that it will work. Do not take refuge in the uncertainty of others. Walk with the certainty that the law is on your side because you are on the side of the law. And each night, before closing your eyes, declare with firmness, God in me directs everything in my favor, because so it will be, because so you have decided, because so your faith has decreed. Chapter 3. Luck exists, law does not. Humanity has lived for centuries under the spell of a mistaken idea, the concept of luck. This word, so common, so repeated, so deeply internalized, has operated like a collective hypnosis that diverts attention from the true causes of our experience. Millions have been taught to say, "He had good luck," when something desirable happens without an apparent explanation, or "He had bad luck," when loss or misfortune arrives. This way of speaking is not innocent. It reflects and reinforces a worldview in which events are governed by arbitrary, unpredictable forces outside the individual. Such thinking is dangerous because it cancels human creative responsibility, weakens mental power, and immerses people in sterile passivity. From the perspective of mental law, luck does not exist. Everything that happens in your life has an inner cause, even if that cause is not always conscious. The subconscious, which never sleeps, gathers and executes all the images, emotions, beliefs, and thoughts you have accepted as true. No exceptions. The deep mind does not evaluate whether something benefits you or harms you. It simply obeys the dominant vibration you emit with your constant feeling. That is why what the world calls chance is in fact the precise consequence of mental states that the individual often ignores or has forgotten having nourished. Whoever studies mental law with honesty recognizes that there are no accidents on the plane of manifestation. What appears as coincidence is actually a convergence of aligned mental factors producing a visible effect. You do not stumble upon something by chance. You have attracted it. You do not meet someone by accident. Your mental field has summoned them. You do not receive an unexpected answer by luck. You have emitted a vibratory question that the law has answered. Just as in physics, there is no movement without a prior force. In the mind, there is no result without a preceding cause. You must embrace this principle firmly if you want to awaken to the true mastery of your destiny. Every effect has its corresponding mental cause. There is no external circumstance that was not first prefigured by an inner image, sustained with emotion, reinforced with words, and accepted as real by your subconscious. Nothing can appear in your experience unless, at some level, your thought has invoked it. This is not a message that flatters the ego, but it liberates the soul. For if everything has an inner cause, then everything can be transformed from within. You no longer depend on uncontrollable external factors. You can now become the conscious architect of your experience. Now many ask, why then do things happen that I do not desire if I never consciously thought of them? The answer is clear. The subconscious responds not only to your conscious thoughts, but to everything you have repeated, heard, felt, or accepted as possible throughout your life. Many people are surprised when difficulties arrive after years of feeding worries, anticipating failures, envying the good of others, or declaring their fear of being harmed. These thoughts, even if not formulated with deliberate will, carve mental grooves that eventually manifest as events, relationships, or crises. It is not enough to think positively from time to time. It is necessary to re-educate the entire emotional and mental structure so that it vibrates in constant harmony with good. One of the most powerful tools to achieve this inner re-education is the meditative reading of Psalm 23. Do not read this psalm as a pious poem. Read it as a mental code that imprints security, order, and direction into your subconscious. Each phrase is an affirmation that divine order is already active in your life. When you repeat attentively, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," you are declaring that your inner guide, your principle of wisdom, directs every step you take with perfect abundance. When you say, "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil," you are neutralizing every subconscious pattern of fear or threat. This psalm is not to be recited mechanically, but to be deeply felt. Each word must penetrate the deep mind and replace old patterns of chance, fear, and fatalism. Another practice I insist upon is the gratitude journal for coincidences already lived. This exercise has a double power. On one hand, it strengthens faith because it forces you to recognize that many good things came to you without your conscious mind having planned them. On the other hand, it clarifies the connection between your past thoughts and your present results. By writing down each day 3 events that happened by chance, and then reflecting on what mental state you held before they occurred, you will begin to see the invisible thread that connects your beliefs to your results. That discovery is a golden key. It shows you that you are not subject to luck, but to law. And if you are subject to law, then you can learn to fulfill it, to use it, to benefit from it. Just like someone who learns the rules of navigation and begins to cross the ocean with confidence. Most men and women do not suffer because the law has failed, but because they have ignored it. Just as someone ignorant of the law of gravity may fall from a height without understanding why, so too can someone ignorant of mental law suffer the effects of their thoughts without seeing the connection. But the law is not capricious. It simply acts. You may choose to ignore it or to use it, but you cannot escape it. The difference between the wise and the superstitious is that the first studies mental causes and works with them, while the second worships effects and fears their shadows. Once you understand that mental law replaces luck, you become vigilant of your inner world. You no longer allow yourself to be carried away by the inertia of collective thought, nor permit the fears of others to take root in your mind. You observe your words, your emotions, your inner images, and align them with what you wish to see realized. If you seek harmony, you cultivate inner peace. If you desire prosperity, you practice constant gratitude. If you need guidance, you affirm that you have already been guided from the beginning. You no longer wait for strokes of luck. You generate mental causes that produce predictable effects. This is the secret that transforms human existence into a dance with the universe rather than a struggle against it. Now you can understand why good intentions are not enough. Mental discipline is required. The law does not respond to vague wishes, but to firm convictions. Just as you cannot expect a seed to bear fruit if you plant it with doubt, or dig it up every night to check if it has sprouted, you cannot expect your affirmations to produce results if you utter them with anxiety, contradiction, or disbelief. The subconscious mind needs constancy, certainty, harmonious repetition. Thought is not a magic wand. It is a tool that, when used rightly, builds worlds. And you can build yours. In summary, what you have called luck is nothing more than the accumulated reflection of your mental states. The universe does not reward or punish. It simply reflects. The mirror of reality can only show you the face you present to it. If you wish to change what you see, do not strike the mirror. Change the expression of your mind. The day you replace the word luck with law is the day you take the reins of your existence. You are no longer a castaway waiting for a miracle, but a navigator who knows the currents and adjusts his rudder with wisdom. Now take your gratitude journal and write down 3 coincidences you have experienced this week. Then ask yourself, what mental state preceded them? What thought? What emotion? What expectation was latent in me? Practice this exercise each night for the next 30 days. At the end, you will no longer say, I was lucky. You will say with authority, the law responded. And by saying it, you will have sealed a sacred covenant with your inner power. For luck is only a myth, but the law is written in your mind. Chapter 4. Providence is not magic, it is sowing. One of the oldest and truest images used to explain the laws that govern life is that of agriculture. From the earliest pages of Scripture to the highest teachings of mental science, the metaphor of the sower has been employed not as ornament, but as principle. The universe is a fertile field. The mind is the soil where ideas are planted, and every harvest, whether of joy or of affliction, has been preceded by conscious or unconscious sowing. This is a truth no wise man can deny without falling into contradiction. And yet how many people still act as if what happens in their lives were the product of mysterious, capricious forces, unrelated to their mental participation? Providence does not work by enchantment. It does not respond to the whim of the instant or the emotion of the moment. It responds with unbreakable exactness to the principle of sowing and reaping. Just as it is impossible to plant thorns and expect lilies, you cannot sow thoughts of lack, fear, or resentment, and expect to reap peace, prosperity, and health. The mental law operates with a logic more rigorous than any mathematical equation. Whatever you sow, you reap. And what you are reaping today is the flowering of thoughts, words and emotions you planted in the past, often without even realizing it. This is why prayer, rightly understood, is not a desperate cry for divine intervention, but a deliberate sowing of fertile ideas into the fertile soil of the subconscious. Effective prayer is not the one that impresses God, but the one that imprints a clear image on the deep mind. It is not the volume of the voice that determines the result, but the sharpness of intention, the perseverance of emotion, the constancy of repetition. Every prayer is a seed. If you pray with fear, you are sowing fear. If you pray with faith, you are sowing certainty. If you pray with gratitude, you are sowing abundance. The difference between one who prays with wisdom and one who prays with anxiety is the same as that between the farmer who sows with knowledge of the seasons and the one who throws seeds to the wind without direction or care. The mind does not respond to the number of pleas, but to the quality of the sowing. That is why I invite you to examine what you are sowing in your life, not with words, but with dominant thoughts. Every thought you repeat, every image you hold, every word you speak with conviction, is a seed that will bear fruit sooner or later in the field of your experience. One of the most eloquent cases I have witnessed was that of a young man who came to me convinced that life had been unfair to him. He had lost his father as a child. His mother had fallen ill. His university studies had been interrupted for lack of resources. He told me, "I don't know why everything goes wrong for me. I do what I can, but nothing prospers." I asked him to describe how he thought each day. His answer was immediate. "I wake up anxious. I think something will go wrong, and sometimes I even catch myself saying out loud that my life is stuck." I told him, "Then you are not stuck because of bad luck. You are reaping your daily sowing. It is not that life punishes you, but that you yourself have been programming your mental field to produce exactly the fruits that now disturb you." From that day, I proposed a rigorous practice. Every morning he had to write in a journal a clear, positive, concrete intention, as if it were a seed planted in his mind. I asked him to write phrases such as, "Today I sow confidence in myself. Today I plant the image of a prosperous future. Today I water the seed of my perfect health." These phrases were not empty formulas, but affirmations sown with precise emotion. I explained that he should close his eyes for a few minutes after writing, visualize the seed as an image, and give thanks in advance for the harvest. In addition, every night before sleeping, he had to repeat with full attention, "I sow today, and the universe brings forth fruit." 3 months later, his tone had changed. He was admitted to a night university with a partial scholarship. His mother began to recover through an alternative treatment. He received a job offer as an administrative assistant in a small company, an opportunity he had never considered, but one that opened a new path for him. None of this was the product of chance. All was the precise consequence of a change in sowing. His thoughts were no longer mental weeds, but deliberate cultivation. His prayer was no longer a disguised complaint, but a conscious directive to the creative power of his mind. Now I ask you, attentive reader, what have you been sowing? What thoughts do you repeat each morning? What images do you nurture before bed? What words do you speak when no one is listening? Are they seeds of abundance or of lack, of forgiveness or of resentment, of faith or of doubt? For the field is ready. The mental soil never refuses to receive. The law never says no. It only waits for your sowing, and it will take care of the growth itself. I invite you to begin today your journal of planted intentions. Do not leave this exercise for tomorrow. At the end of this reading, take a notebook and write a clear intention. Visualize it, feel it, give thanks as if it were already reality, and tonight before sleeping repeat calmly, without haste, with certainty. I sow today, and the universe brings forth fruit. Do not repeat just to repeat. Say it as one who opens a floodgate, as one who signs a contract with providence, as one who knows that every seed deposited in the fertile soil of the mind will bear fruit in perfect time. Do not expect immediate results like one who demands a miracle without understanding the process. The seed needs to germinate. The root is unseen, but it is working. The stalk is not yet visible, but it has already been commanded. Stand firm, do not dig up the seed out of impatience. Do not cancel your sowing with opposing thoughts. Water your intention with gratitude. Protect it from fear with faith. Nourish it with loving repetition. Providence does not respond to the one who begs without direction, but to the one who sows with awareness. And when the harvest arrives, for it will arrive, do not say, "What luck," or "What a surprise." Say with humility and authority, "This is the fruit of my sowing. This is the law fulfilling its promise. This is providence manifesting what I myself planted with wisdom." Just as in the visible field, no one is surprised that wheat comes from a specific seed, so too in the invisible field of your mind, every blessing has a precise root. Sow today, sow every day, and do not fear the calendar, for every seed sown with faith will reap in perfect order. Providence is not magic, it is sowing. And you, reader, are the sower. Chapter 5. How to order circumstances with your mind. There is a silent, permanent, infallible law that governs every aspect of your experience. The external reality you perceive is nothing more than an ordered or disordered projection of your mental structure. This principle has been proclaimed by sages throughout the ages, though under different names. Some have called it the law of attraction, others the law of correspondence, others simply the spiritual law. But it is not the name that matters, it is its constant operation. Every circumstance around you is the reflection of an inner vibrational pattern. Just as water takes the shape of the vessel that contains it, so life adapts to the mental form you sustain deep within yourself. There are no exceptions, no accidents. Everything you experience is a result, and every result has its origin in the invisible structure of your thought. But how does this ordering occur? How can an unseen mind influence concrete events, relationships, income, or the health of the body? The answer is simple once the role of the subconscious is understood. Your deeper mind, that fertile and silent reservoir that stores every image, every emotion, every word you have accepted with intensity, is the great organizer of your experience. It does not operate as a logical reasoner, but as an obedient servant. It receives the orders you give in the form of repeated images, emotions, and inner declarations. And once it receives that order, it begins silently rearranging the pieces of the external board, so that everything fits the pattern you have dictated. If that pattern is order, you reap harmony. If that pattern is chaos, you reap confusion. The universe does not argue with you, it responds. This principle, once understood, frees you from the illusion that circumstances have a life of their own. They do not. What you call my reality is not a fixed object moving toward you. It is a sequence of events organized by your predominant mental vibration. In fact, the law governing this dynamic could be called the law of selective attraction. You do not attract just anything. You attract what vibrates in resonance with your inner structure. You are not a universal magnet, but a selective tuner. Your thoughts do not create the universe, but they do create your experience of the universe. Just as a radio tunes into a specific station depending on the frequency you choose, your life tunes into realities that correspond to your mental vibration. Imagine, then, that you hold in your hands a tool of immeasurable power, the ability to organize your reality through clear, defined mental images nourished by genuine emotion. This tool costs no money, depends neither on your formal education nor your personal history, and is available to you at every instant. It is called directed visualization, but not just any visualization. It must arise from a state of inner reverence, of respect for the law that has been revealed to you. To visualize is not to daydream. It is not to entertain yourself with pleasant ideas. It is a precise technique of vibrational organization. When you visualize your ideal day with clarity and gratitude, you are programming the order of events before they happen. You are moving ahead of the cause. You are dictating the script that your subconscious will obey without objection. This practice cannot be done superficially. It requires a sincere inner disposition. You must sit down, close your eyes, breathe slowly, and enter a state of deep serenity. From there, begin to mentally walk through your day as if it were already unfolding. See every detail, your calm awakening, your harmonious conversations, your vigorous body, your smooth work, your easy commute, your satisfying meals. Leave nothing out, improvise nothing. See the scene with clarity like a director reviewing every shot before filming. And above all, feel it. Emotion is the adhesive that fixes the image in the deep mind. Without emotion, visualization is just a sketch without ink. But when it is felt, it is imprinted, and what is imprinted is manifested. To reinforce this practice, add the technique of relaxation and direct suggestion. Find a quiet place, sit with your back straight, breathing deeply several times. As you exhale, say mentally, I relax, I release, I open. Then once you feel your mind has let go of the day's tensions, formulate a precise suggestion. Use few words. The subconscious responds best to short, clear affirmative phrases. For example, everything is in order. Today I flow with ease. Everything cooperates with my good. Repeat this phrase unhurriedly, feeling that you are instructing a faithful servant who will take your order and execute it perfectly. One of my patients, a businessman trapped in the anxiety of control, once told me, "Doctor, everything in my life seems out of place. The more I try to organize it, the more tangled it becomes." I asked him, "How is your mind?" He replied, "Agitated, worried, always running after something." I responded clearly, "Then that is the cause. Your outer life reflects your inner state. You cannot organize the world if your mind is in chaos." I taught him the technique of reverent visualization and direct suggestion. I asked him to devote 10 minutes each morning to mentally organizing his day, and 5 minutes each night to reviewing his achievements and affirming his gratitude. After 30 days, he said to me, "I can't explain how, but things have started to fall into place without my effort. It's as if the pieces are finding their place on their own." I replied, "It was not magic, it was law. Your mind organized and the world obeyed. You must understand that your mind is your true environment. The outer space merely translates what your mind already contains. You cannot expect harmony if you carry confusion within. You cannot attract prosperity if you cultivate worry inside. You cannot order your relationships if you hold on to resentment or guilt. Life gives you what you are in vibration, not what you say you want, but what you are being. That is why the first task for anyone who wants to see order in their circumstances is to order their inner world. And that order begins with simple practices, repeated with awareness. Visualize, affirm, relax, direct. Begin tonight. Before sleeping, enter into calm. Visualize your tomorrow as a sequence of perfect harmony. Feel that every detail is already resolved. Then affirm, in a firm yet gentle tone, "Everything in my life cooperates with my inner order." Upon waking, repeat the process. Do not skip these steps. Do not underestimate them. The mind is transformed by repetition. Providence responds to consistency, not to fleeting enthusiasm. Your subconscious must know that you are committed to a new pattern. Then it will accept it as law and begin to reorganize everything around it. And when you see your days flowing more easily, when the right people appear, when solutions arrive, when what was once chaos becomes harmonic sequence, do not say the world changed. Recognize that you changed, that your inner order attracted outer order, that your mind is no longer an open field for chance, but a garden directed by awakened consciousness. For this is how life is organized from within, with clear images, with firm direction, with sustained faith, and with the absolute certainty that nothing in the universe resists the instruction of a mind aligned with the law. Chapter 6. Obstacles as signals of correction. There is a deeply rooted tendency in the human mind to see every obstacle as a punishment, every setback as an injustice, and every loss as a defeat. This is one of the greatest errors of unconscious thought. Most people, when faced with a difficulty, immediately assume that something has gone wrong, that life has failed them, that their prayers have not been heard, or that providence has turned its face away. This interpretation is the cause of much unnecessary suffering, not because events are inherently painful, but because the mental reading we give them is mistaken. Those who understand the mental law know that the universe is never out of order. They know that everything that happens, even what seems challenging or unfavorable, contains guidance, correction, and a precise message for those willing to listen. Providence does not act like a capricious parent who rewards or punishes. It acts like a silent compass, correcting the direction of your path, even when you believe you know where you are going. Sometimes the good you desire cannot manifest because the ground on which you stand does not allow it. Then the law, through paths that seem like resistance, pushes you toward more fertile ground. It is not punishment. It is redirection. It is not a blockage. It is instruction. But to understand this, you must abandon the childish vision of a universe that makes mistakes and begin to see with spiritual eyes that everything, Absolutely everything cooperates with your good when you are aligned with the purpose of your soul. Let me tell you the story of a man who came to me devastated by a loss. He was a sales manager at a pharmaceutical company. He had worked there for 14 years. He had stability, recognition, and a well-established routine. One day, without warning, the company was acquired by a foreign group, and his position was eliminated. He said bitterly, "Doctor, I feel like the ground has been pulled from under me. I have nothing. I don't understand how, after working so hard, the universe repays me like this." I answered calmly, "It has not repaid you poorly. It is pushing you toward a higher direction that you yourself were blocking with complacency. What you see as loss is actually a signal." This man, like many others, had been ignoring an inner impulse for years. He confessed that in his youth, he had dreamed of studying psychology, but had dismissed it due to lack of opportunities. He had followed a safe path, but not his true path. The dismissal came as a blow, yes, but also as a necessary shake to break inertia. I taught him the technique of receptive silence. I asked him to dedicate 15 minutes each morning to sitting in total stillness, without asking, planning, or resisting, simply listening. Listening inwardly, not with his ears, but with calm, attentive awareness. This practice, though simple, is transformative. In well-executed silence, clear intuitions emerge, not as voices or visions, but as direct understandings, as knowledge that needs no explanation. After a few weeks, he began to gain clarity. He discovered that losing his job had opened a long-desired path. He began studying psychology at night through an adult program. At the same time, he received an unexpected offer to give talks on sales in small companies. He discovered that he had a talent for teaching. His income eventually exceeded what he had lost. One afternoon he said to me, "Now I understand. It wasn't punishment. It was correction. The obstacle turned me toward my destiny." I replied, "Providence did not take the ground from under you. It showed you that you were on the wrong path. This principle is universal. What you call a problem is often just an instruction in disguise. But to decipher it, you must abandon immediate reaction and enter understanding. Not everything that appears as resistance is a rejection. Sometimes a gate that closes is not denial, but protection. Some paths must remain untraveled, some connections must close, some structures must collapse so that higher ones may be built. But this can only be understood from a mature consciousness, from a faith that no longer needs to control results, but trusts that invisible order manifests even amid the appearance of chaos. At this point, it is vital to incorporate a new affirmation into your daily routine. Repeat it frequently, especially in the face of any setback. "Everything that occurs pushes me toward my good." This phrase is not a motivational slogan. It is a vibrational formula that reprograms your mind to interpret events according to the law, not fear. Each time you repeat it, you instruct your subconscious to stop seeing enemies and begin seeing signals. You are choosing the providential reading of your circumstances. You are aligning your perception with the higher order that never fails. The technique of receptive silence must become part of your daily spiritual life. You do not need music, incense, or special postures. Just inner silence. Sit, breathe, release your worries. Observe your thoughts without attachment. Let them pass like clouds, then simply listen, not to external voices, but to the inner guidance that has always been there, waiting for you to quiet the noise so it can speak. This guidance is not your subconscious. It is infinite wisdom expressing itself through your deep mind when you cease imposing your judgments. In that state, you begin to understand the whys. You do not need lengthy explanations. Understanding comes as certainty. Never again say, "This shouldn't have happened." Instead declare, "This is redirecting me," because everything that occurs, absolutely everything, has a function within the greater scheme of good. You cannot see the complete tapestry from your current level of consciousness, but you can trust that the thread that seems dark today will be part of the most beautiful design when the loom is finished. Just as a navigator corrects course when feeling wind resistance, you can correct your course when facing obstacles. They are not your enemy, they are your compass. Do not stop to curse or fear them. Observe them. Ask, what are you pointing out? Which path should I reconsider? Which higher direction should I take? Ask these questions from silence and the answers will come, not as reasoning, but as inner clarity. Then you will see that providence does not oppose you, it perfects you. It does not limit you. It realigns you. It does not punish you. It prepares you for a higher version of yourself. And when you begin to view your difficulties as signals of correction, you will no longer live as a victim of fate, but as a conscious collaborator with the law. Life will cease to be a sequence of accidents and become a pedagogy of guidance. Each apparent failure will be a staircase, each closed door a new opening, each fall an invisible hand placing you in the right place. Then you will say, like the man I told you about, I lost nothing. I found myself because good never retreats. It only changes form. And everything you resist today, if you view it with trained eyes, is a signal of loving correction. Providence never fails. It only waits for you to read it correctly. Chapter 7, Psalm 23 and the Psychology of the Good Shepherd. There is no text more cited, more recited, more memorized, and more misunderstood than Psalm 23. Its language is so familiar that many people repeat it without ever pausing to contemplate its internal structure, spiritual logic, and mental power. Yet this brief psalm contains, in just a few lines, one of the deepest syntheses of providential thought. It is not a poem meant to console the sick or a hymn for funerals, as it has been limited in many traditions. It is, in truth, a precise mental formula, a prayer that contains all the keys to the relationship between your subconscious mind and the intelligent guidance we call providence. To begin unlocking its power, you must change your approach. Do not read it as an external sacred text, but as a map of your inner world. Each word of Psalm 23 must be assumed not as a theological statement, but as a mental affirmation that instructs your subconscious. The Lord is not an external character with human attributes. The Lord is your inner guiding principle, the infinite intelligence residing at the center of your being, which knows, sees, directs, and provides. When you say, "The Lord is my shepherd," you are affirming that you do not depend on chance, others' opinions, or external judgment, but on an internal source that knows the way. You are declaring your belonging to a higher order, your trust in wise guidance, and your relinquishment of anxious control. Every line of the psalm is a providential affirmation and must be internalized as such. Repeating it from memory is not enough. It must be planted in the subconscious through understanding and emotion. Let us examine the text and break down each part as a mental instruction. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. This line encapsulates the principle of sufficiency. By repeating it, you affirm that all needs are already resolved. You are not asking for provision. You are acknowledging that the source has already been activated within you. Your subconscious receives this phrase as an order for manifestation. Nothing will be lacking because nothing is lacking at the invisible level. He makes me lie down in green pastures. Here, inner harmony is affirmed. Visualize your mind as a serene field where worries dissolve and peace is established as a permanent state. Resting in green pastures means allowing the law to operate without mental interference. Rest is not inactivity, it is trust. He leads me beside still waters. The image of still waters represents the smooth flow of life when aligned with providence. No turbulence, no conflict, only effortless guidance. By repeating this line, you tell your mind, "Guide me without anxiety. Show me the way with gentleness." He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. This affirmation indicates inner restoration and alignment with order. Paths of righteousness means correct, suitable, harmonious paths. You do not choose by logic. You choose from the wisdom of the soul. Righteousness here is not morality. It is vibrational accuracy. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. This is the heart of the psalm, its moment of trial and victory. The shadow of death symbolizes moments of darkness, doubt, illness, or loss. But it does not say, "I will be in death," only "in the shadow of death." Danger is apparent, not essential. By affirming that you do not fear, you deactivate all subconscious patterns of fear. The presence of the inner guide, "You are with me," eliminates any need for external protection. Security comes from within, and your rod and your staff, they comfort me. The rod represents discipline, the staff represents guidance. Both symbolize the instruments of the guide. Comfort is inspiration, renewal, invisible strength that sustains. By affirming this line, you say, "I accept the correction and direction my inner guide offers me." You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. This is an affirmation of silent victory. The enemy is not combated, it is transcended. The table represents abundance, celebration, and fulfillment. The subconscious receives this image as proof that good is stronger than threat. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Anointing symbolizes choice, blessing, consecration. The overflowing cup signals abundant, unrestrained good. This line trains the mind to accept good without guilt or limit. The subconscious needs to know that there is no scarcity in your belief system. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This affirms continuity of good. It is not intermittent or conditional, it is permanent. All the days programs vibrational stability. Dwelling in the house of the Lord is not a physical temple, but a state of consciousness aligned with presence. Living there means living from inner guidance. For this psalm to act with its full power, you must internalize it as a mental code. I recommend slow, recorded readings of your own voice, reciting each line affirmatively. Listen each night before sleep, not as a ritual but as programming. Let your voice instruct your subconscious. Leave spaces of silence between each phrase. Breathe. Allow the words to penetrate. Additionally, transform the psalm into a personalized prayer. Adapt each phrase to your inner language. For example, "The Lord is my guiding mind, directing me with perfect wisdom. My day is filled with peace. I fear no future, for he has already gone before me." This personalization is an advanced integration technique. It is not about changing the text, but translating it into a form your subconscious understands more easily. And always remember, the Good Shepherd is not an external figure. It is the infinite intelligence residing within you. You are not abandoned. You do not walk alone. A higher guidance operates through you. When you affirm this with conviction, when you visualize each line as present reality, when you allow your mind to align with this inner guidance, providence has no choice but to manifest in perfect order. So each time you recite Psalm 23, do not do so as an old formula. Do it as one who activates a precise mental machinery, as one who instructs the subconscious, as one who acknowledges that the soul already knows the way. And when you finish, remain silent. Listen, and you will see that the shepherd speaks. He has always spoken. You only needed to hear again. Chapter 8. Gratitude, the spiritual magnet of goodness. One of the clearest signs that a mind is operating in harmony with providence is the constant presence of gratitude. I am not speaking of social gratitude or the polite emotional courtesy taught as part of good manners. I am referring to a deep, sustained, vibratory inner attitude that recognizes, even before seeing, that good is already on its way. This gratitude is not a reaction. It is a signal. It does not respond to what has been received, but anticipates what will inevitably manifest. It is the vibratory signature of true faith. It is the mental state of someone who has understood that life owes them nothing because it has already given everything in potential. A grateful person does not wait to receive in order to feel prosperous. They feel prosperous, and therefore they receive. This principle has been ignored by those trapped in the mindset of merit, effort, and painful entitlement. Most people give thanks only when the result has materialized, when the check has arrived, when the body has healed, when the conflict has ceased. But this delayed gratitude has no creative power. It is merely a passive acknowledgement of the obvious. True gratitude, on the other hand, is active, anticipatory, and firm. It is the language of one who has already sown their thought and now waters the seed with joy. It is the mental habit of someone who has visualized, signed, and instructed their subconscious, and now places themselves in a state of reception. Understand this. Your subconscious interprets gratitude as a signal of fulfillment. When you give thanks, even before seeing the result in the visible plane, your subconscious assumes the good has already been received and begins to act, reorganizing the conditions necessary for that internal conviction to manifest externally. It does not do so because you deserve it, but because it has been instructed to. The language of the subconscious is not logic nor waiting. It is sustained emotional state. Intense gratitude is a vibratory command the deep mind cannot ignore. It says, act, because the good is already present. One of the most powerful tools I have taught those who wish to transform their circumstances, especially in the financial realm, is the gratitude journal. This is not a decorative planner, nor an occasional list of positive phrases. It is a precise mental discipline. Each day write 3 entries of real gratitude, with emotion, with awareness, with detail. It does not matter if the events are large or small. What matters is that each line written strengthens in you the idea that you are already in reception. The journal is the ground where you practice anticipatory perception. You do not give thanks out of protocol. You give thanks to create. I will tell you about a woman who came to me with serious financial problems. She was a teacher and mother of 2 children. She said with distress, "I don't know what else to do. I work all day, but the money never stretches. There's always a shortage. I'm always running after bills." I asked, "How many times a day do you express true gratitude?" She fell silent. She said, "How can I give thanks when I am in deficit?" I replied, "Precisely because you live in deficit, you need to learn to give thanks before seeing, not out of obligation, but out of understanding." I explained the journal technique. I asked her to write 3 blessings each day. At first it was difficult. She said, "What can I write if everything is wrong?" I told her, "Start with the basics. Give thanks for having a roof, for being able to read, for having a notebook to write in." By the 3rd week, her language had changed. She began to notice opportunities she had previously ignored. A colleague offered her a small book-selling business. A neighbor recommended her for private lessons. An old debt was unexpectedly settled. None of these events was random. Each was a natural consequence of her vibrational shift. Her anticipatory gratitude activated new pathways. Her mind, having left the state of complaint, began to see doors where previously there had only been walls. Months later, she told me, "The journal didn't bring me magic. It brought me clarity. It made me see that it was already there, but I couldn't recognize it because I was trapped in lamentation." Do not underestimate the power of this tool. Do not treat it as a minor exercise. The gratitude journal is a way to re-educate your perception. By cultural habit, the human mind tends to focus on what is lacking, what is absent, what hurts, and as with all focus, this becomes subconscious instruction. Those who complain not only suffer more, they command their reality to remain the same. Complaint is a negative prayer. Every time you say this is a disaster, you are sowing continuity for that disaster. By contrast, when you say, "I am grateful because everything cooperates with me," you align your mind with the flow of good. You attract responses, connections, ideas, and provisions, not by chance, but by law. Repeat now with full attention, "I am grateful because everything cooperates with me." Do not repeat it as someone trying to convince themselves. Repeat it as one who knows that in giving thanks, they are confirming an invisible reality that will soon become visible. Do not expect grand miracles at first. Expect small proofs. Expect peace where there was tension. Expect simple solutions where you once saw only problems. And when that occurs, because it will, add it to your journal. Testify in your own pages. Record the growing order. You will see that over time your mind will actively seek new reasons to give thanks and will stop focusing on what is missing. Then you will have entered true abundance, the constant perception that you are being supported, guided, and provided for. Gratitude is also a vibratory shield. It not only attracts good, it protects your mind from doubt. When you are grateful, you do not fear. When you are grateful, you do not envy. When you are grateful, you do not compete. Because you recognize that your source is not the world, nor people, nor jobs. Your source is the infinite intelligence operating within you, and that source never fails, never runs out, never gets distracted. It only waits for you to place yourself in a state of reception. Make gratitude your primary habit. You do not need external conditions to begin. All you need is willingness, a notebook, a pen, and 5 minutes a day. 3 phrases, 3 details, 3 reasons, and over time, hundreds of new blessings. This is how the mind is trained, how the subconscious is magnetized, how the invisible gate through which providence flows is opened. And when someone asks you, "Why are you smiling? Why does your life seem lighter? Why are things falling into place?" Simply say, "Because I have learned to give thanks before receiving. Because the one who gives thanks in advance receives by destiny. Because gratitude, when sincere and constant, becomes a spiritual magnet for good." Chapter 9. Providence and Synchronicities, Miracles in Order. One of the subtlest and most powerful ways in which providence acts in a person's life is through what is popularly called coincidences. This word, inherited from ancient and superstitious thinking, suggests that certain encounters, events, or outcomes appear by chance, without causal connection, as if the universe suddenly decided to roll the dice. This is a childish and limited view of the spiritual functioning of the world. In truth, there is no such thing as coincidence. There is no chance, no chaos. Everything that occurs obeys an invisible, yet absolutely precise law. The correct term for these phenomena is not coincidence, but providential synchronicity, the external manifestation of an internal order issued by sustained thought, charged with intention and emotion. When you understand that every image you hold in your deep mind is being translated into events, people, opportunities, and paths, you begin to live with a different awareness. You no longer act as one who waits to see what happens, but as one who knows everything is occurring according to what has already been sown. You cease to be a victim of time and become its architect. You do not need to control how it will happen. You only need to order clearly and allow higher order, providence, to use the means it considers most efficient to execute the instruction. This is the basic principle that explains synchronicities. They are the concrete response of a mind that has already vibrated the image of the desired outcome and allowed the law to act without interference. Over the years, many of my listeners have written to me with stories that, to the casual observer, seem like random miracles, but are in truth the exact manifestation of this principle. I recall especially the case of a 40-year-old woman, a teacher and single mother, who for many years had lived with a sense of emotional resignation. She wrote me a letter saying, "Doctor, I thought it was already too late for me. All the men I knew were inadequate or emotionally closed. I had already accepted that love was not for me." On one of my radio programs, I proposed a practice that transformed her life, directed visualization accompanied by inner conversation. I asked her to dedicate 15 minutes each night before bed to vividly visualize the presence of an ideal partner. Not a nebulous figure, not a generic face, but a concrete image imbued with specific qualities: integrity, tenderness, strength, commitment, humor, spirituality. Furthermore, she was to maintain an internal conversation with that presence, as if it were already part of her life. She would say, "Thank you for being here. Thank you for arriving at the exact right moment. Thank you for loving me consciously." Repeated without anxiety and with anticipatory gratitude, this practice began to shift her vibration. 3 months later, at a meeting she attended for professional reasons, she met a widowed man with a teenage son who perfectly embodied the qualities she had visualized. She wrote to me again, "It wasn't love at first sight, it was certainty. I felt I already knew him. I felt that everything had been prepared." I replied, "It wasn't coincidence, it was mental law executing in perfect timing. It was providence obeying a clear instruction. Today they are married, not by chance, but by inner guidance. You must understand that your mind is a constant emitting center. Every image you maintain, every emotion you sustain, every word you repeat internally is being translated into form. You do not need to shout to be heard by the universe. It is enough to think clearly, feel with certainty, and allow the law to act. This requires discipline, yes, but more than discipline, it requires awareness. You must monitor what you maintain in your inner dialogue. The conversation you hold with yourself is what your subconscious obeys. If you constantly repeat phrases like, "Good things never happen to me," "Opportunities don't appear," "It's too late for me," you are issuing orders that will be executed precisely. The subconscious does not distinguish between what you desire and what you fear. It only obeys what you repeat with emotion. That is why I propose a resource you should immediately incorporate into your daily practice: directed inner conversation. Each morning, before facing the world, take 5 minutes to speak internally as one who directs an invisible army. Use affirmative phrases charged with direction. "This is a day of opportunities. Everything cooperates with me. I'm aligned with my purpose. I meet the right people. I appear in the right places." Do not say these as empty slogans. Speak each phrase as one who activates a precise machine, because that is exactly what you are doing. You are turning on your providential machinery, and you will see that little by little those so-called coincidences begin to occur. An unexpected message, a precise call, an apparently fortuitous encounter. All respond to the order you have issued. To reinforce this understanding, practice the providential memory exercise. Each night, before sleeping, recap your day looking for small signs of invisible order. Do not focus on what was lacking, what failed, or what disturbed you. Make the effort to detect at least one fact that demonstrates something fell into place, one piece fit, one answer appeared. Write it down, give thanks, and declare, "This is evidence that Providence is acting." In this way, you retrain your perception. You train your mind to register miracles because a miracle is not a violation of law. It is the exact manifestation of law. When you stop interfering with fear, doubt, or complaint, you do not need to know how what you desire will happen. You only need to know it will happen and give thanks in advance. Providence does not require logistical instructions. It requires clear emotional direction. Do not say, "May someone come." Say, "Thank you for the arrival of the one already on the way." Do not say, "I hope the job appears." Say, "Thank you for the perfect job already designated for me." Do not say, "I need a sign." And when the miracle occurs, which it will, do not say, "What luck." Do not say, "What a coincidence." Say calmly and with certainty, "This is manifested order. This is the synchronicity of good. This is the response to my instruction." Because life does not improvise, life responds. And when you think clearly, feel with certainty, and speak with direction, the entire universe, visible and invisible, moves to execute your request. This is how true miracles operate, not as interruptions of order, but as perfect expressions of the highest order. They are providence in action, and you are its conscious collaborator. Chapter 10. How to cooperate with the rhythm of the universe. If you want to deeply understand how providence operates in your life, you must begin by accepting a fundamental truth. The universe has a rhythm. Everything that is born, manifests, grows, matures, and bears fruit does so within a temporal order that does not respond to your personal urgencies, your mental calendars, or your impatience disguised as spiritual desire. The universe does not act on whim, nor does it accelerate under pressure. Providence is intelligent direction that always responds, but it does so in harmonic sequence, according to the law of cycles, not the anxiety of your ego. When you understand this, inner conflict ceases. You no longer force, you no longer doubt, you no longer fear. You align with the greater rhythm, and when you align, you flow. There is a dangerous illusion that contaminates many spiritual practices. The idea that you can accelerate manifestation through intense affirmations, compulsive visualizations, or repeated requests. This is a mistake. Not because these tools lack power, as I have already shown their real efficacy in previous chapters, but because their effectiveness depends on your inner state, not on superficial frequency. If you affirm from fear, visualize from despair, or repeat from doubt, you are only amplifying interference. The law does not respond to insistence. It responds to the vibratory harmony between your desire and your faith. And that harmony includes the deep understanding that everything happens in its perfect time. Think of the oak tree, not a symbolic oak, but a real tree. Imagine its growth. An acorn falls to the ground, finds fertile soil, and begins a process that cannot be forced. Roots expand underground before the first sprout appears. There are invisible cycles of internal organization. Structures must form in secret before appearing to the world. If you inspect the soil every day and demand the tree hurry, not only will you fail to accelerate its growth, you could damage it. If in impatience you dig it up to see how it's doing, you interrupt its process. The same occurs with your planted ideas, your prayers, your decrees. Everything is germinating, but you must trust the rhythm of that germination. Here is a concept many confuse. Active patience is not resignation, inertia, or sitting back waiting for the heavens to act on your behalf. Active patience is a state of operating certainty. It is the decision to continue your life in peace, with joy, with direction, while invisible order acts. It means you continue visualizing, yes, you continue affirming, of course, but without anxiety, obsession, or tension, because you already know that what is yours by law will come at the right moment, neither before nor after. Those who know this do not give up, but neither do they fret. A woman who listened to me on a regional radio station once wrote, "I have requested a job improvement for months. I visualize, affirm, meditate, but nothing happens." I responded with the question, "What is your inner state during the day?" She said, "I am tense, irritated, waiting for something to happen." I explained that this state is precisely what prevents manifestation. I taught her to repeat a new affirmation, not to obtain something, but to tune herself to the rhythm of the law. Everything happens in its perfect time. I asked her to stop asking for a while and start trusting, to focus on enjoying her present, on giving thanks for what was already received, on recording every sign of progress, however small. 3 months later, she wrote again. The position she had requested did not open, but she was offered one in another company, better paid and more flexible, something she had not expected. I replied, "That is providence. It did not give you what you asked for, but something greater. To receive it, you had to step out of the rhythm of the ego and enter the rhythm of the universe. You must understand that the law sees farther than you do. What you call delay is often protection. What you call slowness is synchronization. Perhaps the person who must help you has not yet reached the right point. Perhaps the situation you desire is not yet ready to thrive. Perhaps you yourself need to adjust, learn something, release something, mature something, and that takes time. But it is not empty time, it is fertile time. If you recognize it as such, I recommend implementing a concrete practice, a monthly record of signs of progress. Take a notebook, divide it by months, and at the end of each week, note any sign, no matter how small, that something is moving, a new idea has emerged, an unexpected contact has appeared, a detail has aligned. This trains your mind to recognize the silent work of the law, and in doing so, strengthens your faith. Not in words, but in evidence. When you align with the rhythm of the universe, you do not need to see the whole tree to know it is growing. It is enough to feel that the roots are alive. In this way, you live not from the anxiety of results, but from the peace of the process. Providence does not improvise. Each stage has its place. Everything arrives when you are ready to sustain it, not before, not after, exactly when it should. So when you ask yourself why what you requested has not yet occurred, change the question to this: am I cooperating with the rhythm of the universe, or am I forcing it from my impatience? And when you feel everything is slow, repeat, "Everything happens in its perfect time." Say it not as consolation, but as affirmation of an immutable law. Just as the oak does not force its growth, you must allow what you have planted to grow with invisible wisdom. Your task is not to force. Your task is to trust, act with joy, and live in the certainty that good never arrives late. It always arrives just in time. And if you are aligned with that timing, you will receive it in peace, gratitude, and fullness. Chapter 11. How not to oppose providence. One of the most frequent and harmful mistakes on the path of spiritual fulfillment is the attempt to force processes that are already underway. Human beings, driven by the habit of control and the belief in rational self-sufficiency, often become the main obstacle to their own progress. It is not that providence is absent or fails in its direction. It is that the conscious mind, wanting to intervene, direct, correct, and manipulate steps that inner wisdom has already begun to execute, introduces noise, distortion, and blockage. Yes, instead of allowing the law to act smoothly, it interferes with anxiety. Instead of trusting, it complicates. Instead of collaborating, it obstructs. Understand this clearly. Providence does not need your tense effort, but your lucid surrender. The difference between those who cooperate with the law and those who resist it lies in the inner state, not in the quantity of external actions. Acting is not the same as stirring. Moving is not the same as advancing. Anxious activism, disguised as responsibility, is a subtle form of distrust. It tells the universe, "I don't believe you know how to handle this, so I will intervene." And that kind of thought emits vibrations of doubt that the subconscious translates as contradiction. Then the result is delayed, not because the law fails, but because you did not allow the natural process of manifestation to complete. I will share an illustrative case I encountered a few years ago. A 48-year-old engineer, project manager at a construction company, came to me with an internal conflict. He said, "I know I am ready for a promotion. They've hinted at it, but it doesn't happen. I work hard, show my availability, take on more hours and responsibilities, and nothing." I asked, "How do you feel each morning when you go to work?" He responded without hesitation, tense, alert, as if he had to stay one step ahead of everyone. I told him, "That state of vigilance is exactly what is blocking your promotion. It is not your boss who doubts. It is your subconscious that does not allow what is already ready to arrive. I proposed that he stop trying to control the outcome. I taught him the technique of leaving it in the hands of the subconscious. It is simple, yet profound. Each night, just before sleep, when the mind is most permeable, he was to speak a clear and serene phrase. Subconscious, I have already planted the idea. Now act. I release control. I allow. Then he would breathe deeply and release all tension. No planning, no rehearsing, just trust. Additionally, he was to use a short morning prayer. Show me, guide me within. If said sincerely, this prayer eliminates mental arrogance and places the individual in a receptive state. After 6 weeks, this man was called by management. Not only was he promoted, but he was assigned an international project that exceeded all his expectations. He said to me, I didn't do anything different. I just stopped forcing. I replied, yes, you did do something different. You allowed. And that was what changed everything. The subconscious does not need you to intervene with control. It needs you to step aside. When you give a clear instruction through affirmation, visualization, or prayer, you have already planted the idea. The subconscious, like a faithful worker, begins its task of organizing the necessary conditions. But if your conscious mind begins to review, doubt, correct, or question, that intervention is received as a contradictory order, and execution halts. It is like an architect approving a plan and halfway through construction returning every hour with changes, doubts, and corrections. How could anything stable be built? Here lies the importance of developing a little understood mental quality, surrender without abandonment. This is not disinterest, passivity, or resignation. It is understanding your place in the process. You plant, you order, you direct with clear thought, but then you step aside so that greater power may act. You cannot open the precise doors, move the right people, or create the necessary scenarios. But your subconscious can, because it is in direct contact with infinite intelligence. And this intelligence does not need your supervision. It needs your permission. Examine your mental habits now. Ask yourself honestly, am I trusting or am I forcing? Am I affirming with faith or with anxiety? Am I waiting from peace or from fear? If you discover that doubt, impatience, or control are dominating your attitude, stop. Breathe, release, declare, I leave this in the hands of my deep mind. It is already done. Then live your day with serenity. Do what you must without tension. Fulfill your part without obsessive vigilance, and you will see how the law reestablishes itself. The law never stopped operating. It was only waiting for you to stop interfering. This principle applies to everything. Relationships, health, finances, important decisions. Whenever you feel something is stuck, do not push. Be silent. Release. Not because you have failed, but because you have already done what is necessary, and now it is up to the higher power to execute. The wise person does not disengage from life, but neither does he or she oppress it. Cooperate, and that cooperation includes knowing when to speak and when to remain silent, when to advance and when to wait, when to sow and when to rest. Repeat with me now and make this phrase your secret prayer whenever control threatens to dominate you. Show me, guide me within. I do not force, I allow, I do not direct, I collaborate. May my mind align with infinite wisdom, and may every step arise from peace. When this becomes your permanent attitude, providence will no longer meet resistance in you and will begin to act with surprising speed. For speed does not depend on time, but on your alignment. And when you do not oppose, everything flows, everything arrives, everything is ordered, because the law does not need help. It only needs permission. Chapter 12. You and Providence are one. In this final stretch of our journey, it is necessary to elevate the vision to a point where the mind no longer settles for seeing Providence as something separate, distant, or external. We have devoted entire pages to understanding how the law responds, how the subconscious mind is the channel, how faith directs, how gratitude attracts, how patience cooperates, and how surrender opens the way. All of this is true, but if you do not take one more step, you will remain trapped in dualistic thinking. You on one side, Providence on the other. You waiting, Providence giving. You asking, Providence granting. This image is useful in the early stages of understanding, but it must be transcended because in ultimate reality there are not two. You and Providence are one. The old dualistic thinking, the habit of seeing God up above and man down below, of assuming an insurmountable gap between the source and the creature, has been the root of countless errors, fears, and superstitions. It has made millions feel like spiritual beggars, asking favors from the heavens as if they were at the mercy of an unpredictable will. But the mental law reveals a higher truth. Provident intelligence is not outside of you. It does not move from some distant throne to help you. It lives in you, expresses through you, acts through you. You are not a subject of providence. You are its manifestation. You are not a passive beneficiary of the law. You are the law in conscious action. The I am that resonates within you is the key to this understanding. When you say with conviction, I am, you are not uttering two empty words. You are activating the most powerful formula that exists in human language. I am is the name of presence, the point at which individual identity recognizes itself as part of infinite intelligence. When you say I am health, you are not asking for health to visit you. You are declaring that life itself, in its perfection, is already expressing through you. When you say, I am prosperity, you are not begging for abundance. You are acknowledging that the inexhaustible source of good moves through your being. When you say, I am guided, you do not wait for external signs. You recognize that eternal wisdom already thinks of you as you. This I am is not ego, not pride, not self-exaltation. It is the consciousness of unity. This consciousness completely transforms spiritual practice. As long as you remain in the attitude of asking from lack, your subconscious will continue to record that you do not have, and consequently will continue producing experiences of not having. But when you decree from unity, when you affirm as one who already possesses, when you declare as one who already is, the law responds with manifestations consistent with that identity. You do not say, I want peace. You say, I am peace. You do not say, I need guidance. You say, I am guided by divine order. You do not say, I long for prosperity. You say, I am manifested prosperity. This change of language is not rhetorical, it is vibrational, and your subconscious immediately recognizes it as a higher command. I invite you to begin practicing a complete affirmative prayer that encapsulates this consciousness of unity in a few words. I am the expression of divine order. Repeat this formula each morning and night, not as one trying to convince oneself, but as one recognizing what already is. Feel that by saying, I am, you align with the very center of infinite intelligence. There is no distance, no waiting, no separation. Divine order expresses itself as you in every cell, every decision, every step. This affirmation is more than a phrase. It is an act of taking possession of your true identity. I know the rational mind, accustomed to duality, resists this idea. It may say, how can I be one with providence if I have errors, limitations, weaknesses? The answer is clear. Those limitations are not your essence. They are transient layers of accumulated thought, mental habits that do not reflect the ultimate reality of your being. You are not your doubts, your failures, or your fears. You are the center of providence manifesting in human form. When you understand this, you stop identifying with the shell and recognize the fruit. And by recognizing yourself, you begin to live from that identity. Your limitations dissolve, not because you fought them, but because they no longer find a place to anchor in you. A practice I insist upon is the weekly devotional reading of this chapter. Do not read it only once. Return to it each week, calmly, in silence, as if it were a reminder of your true identity. Read aloud. Listen to your words. Let them penetrate your subconscious. Do not seek to understand everything with the logical mind. Allow repetition to open a certainty beyond reasoning, because this teaching is not assimilated by intellect alone. It integrates through experience. And that experience will come if you maintain the practice. When you internalize this truth, you will stop begging and start reigning. You will stop seeking signs and start being the sign. You will stop waiting for miracles and begin manifesting them naturally. Not because you have special powers, but because you finally understand that providence is not outside you, not above you, not distant from you. It is you. It always has been, it always will be. Duality was an illusion, unity is reality. Make this declaration now, this instant, and make it yours. I am the expression of divine order. Say these words with the weight of conviction, the strength of faith, and the certainty that they are true, not as a wish, but as present reality. And you will see that by living from this identity, your entire life begins to reorder itself. You no longer ask from lack, you decree from plenitude. You no longer wait for intervention, you recognize yourself as manifestation. You no longer doubt providence. You acknowledge that you and providence are one. That recognition is the final key, the definitive seal, the culmination of the path. When you assume it, there is no separation. And when there is no separation, there is no lack, no fear, no waiting. There is only perfect expression, and that expression is you.